Pleasant morning, everyone. I introduce to you our members, Princess Garcia, Marjorie de la Rosa, Kathleen de la Cruz, Josiah de Guia, Andre Credo, Bea Cagitla, Ivy Guevara, Andrea Bautista, and yours truly, MJ Lasho. We are here today to present to you a version of the first voyage around the world with Magellan by Antonio Pigafetta.
Good day, everyone! I am Marjorie de la Rosa, and I will be discussing the background of the author of Antonio Pigafetta. So, who is Antonio Pigafetta? Antonio Pigafetta is an Italian traveler. His nationality is Italian and Venetian. Antonio Pigafetta was born in the closing year of 15th century. His parents are Giovanni Pigafetta and Angela Soga. He is the eldest child among his two siblings. Was a native of Vicenza, a town about 100 kilometers west of Venice, Italy. Antonio Pigafetta studied astronomy, geography, and cartography. Served on board the ship of the Knights of Rhodes at the beginning of 16th century. Had an aunt Elisabetta who married Valeria Chericati. Antonio Pigafetta accompanied Monsignor Chericati to Spain in 1519. He also accompanied Ferdinand Magellan together with Juan Sebastian Elcano in the famous expedition to Moluccas, which began in August 1519 and ended in 1522. He is a famous Italian traveler, born in Vicenza around 1490 and died in the same city in 1534, who is also known by the name of Antonio Lombardo or Francisco Antonio Pigafetta. He had a handwritten account of the expedition entitled The First Voyage Around the World, which will be analyzed later by Princess Garcia and Josiah de Guia.
Good day, I am Princess Garcia. I'll discuss the historical context of the document The First Voyage Around the World by Antonio Pigafetta. The document was written on board in one of the 5 ships that was circumnavigate the world during the expedition that was led by the Portuguese explorer Ferdinand Magellan and after his death, led by Juan Sebastian Elcano. The expedition started in 1591 and ended in Spain in 1522. The government of Spain provided a fleet named Armada de Malucha led by Ferdinand Magellan consisting of 5 ships, namely Santiago, San Antonio, Concepcion, Trinidad, and Victoria. Let Mr. de Guia tackle the 5 ships.
Let us tackle first the Santiago with 32 crew members on board and was commanded by Juan Rodriguez Serrano. It is the smallest among the 5 ships. It was cargo, meaning a light or small sailing ship of the 15th, 16th, and 17th centuries in Europe, much used by the Spanish and Portuguese for long voyages. Santiago was the first ship on the exploration that had been lost due to the weather storm happened on May 3, 1520 at Santa Cruz River, presently known as Argentina. Unfortunately, the ship was wrecked. Secondly, the San Antonio with 60 crew members, commanded by Juan de Cartagena who had been appointed captain of the largest ship among the 5 and carrying the most of the supplies in the expedition. It was soon led by Alvarado de Mezquita. The ship had been lost in the expedition, a reason that San Antonio's ship deserted the expedition and returned to Spain. The next is Concepcion, a ship with 45 crew members, commanded by Gaspar de Quesada. He was executed due to mutiny. In May 1591, the ship was intentionally burned due to its very bad condition. This occurred in the waters of the Philippines following Magellan's death in Mactan. Fourth is Trinidad. It served as the flagship for the circumnavigation, a ship with 55 crew members and commanded by the expedition leader, Ferdinand Magellan. It was attacked by Portuguese and left shipwrecked. The 4th ship that had been lost. The 5th and the last, Victoria, with 43 crew members under the command of Luis Mendoza, soon led by Juan Sebastian Elcano. The ship which carried supplies and provisions. This is where Antonio Pigafetta was sailed. The only ship completed the voyage, successfully returned to Spain on September 6, 1522, and the first ship circumnavigated the world. To further understand the topic, let Ms. Garcia elucidate you the scenarios.
Ship Santiago was the only caravel while the others were rated as carracks. San Antonio Figafetta was on board the Victoria at the end of the voyage, which the only ship that was able to return to Spain. 3 out of 5 ships reached the Philippines. After the Battle of Mactan, there managed enough to board 2 ships, which are Trinidad and Victoria. Unfortunately, when they returned to Spain, only 1 ship survived, which is Victoria. Antonio Figafetta was one of the survivors who kept the journal about their expedition. This is the world map showing the route of Magellan circumnavigates the world during his expedition of spice. Upon arrival in Europe, Pigafetta presented copies of his account to several high personages, including Pope Clement VII, mother of King Francis I of France, and more. The original journal of Pigafetta was lost in an undefined language was written on, but 4 manuscripts was able to survive, 1 in Italian and 3 in French. Next topic will be discussed by Mr. Credo, which is the analysis of important historical information found in the document.
Good day, my name is Andre Layton C. Credo, and I'm one of the individuals who will discuss the analysis of the important historical information found in the documents. An important reminder, since Magellan and his crew crossed the international date line, there is 1 day added to the original dates that Antonio Pigafetta wrote in his book for the better perspective of us Filipinos. Throughout the expedition, there served a translator named Enrique. Enrique was from Sumatra, and Sumatra is a well-known country at the present, and we know it as the country of Indonesia, and he was a slave of Ferdinand Magellan. Magellan acquired Enrique as a slave at Malacca, and Malacca is also a well-known country at the present, and we call it the country of Malaysia. March 1721, originally March 16, the voyage of Ferdinand Magellan arrived at Zamal. Zamal is a place here in the Philippines, and we currently know it as Samar, Philippines. The island was called Humunu, and now Humanhon. Magellan and his man called it Aquada delle Buoni Segnali, or the watering place of God signs. There are many islands in that district, and therefore they call them the archipelago of St. Lazaro, as they were discovered on the Sunday of St. Lazarus. The next slide shows us the picture of the first Mass in the Philippines, or the first Christian Mass in the Philippines. The first Mass in the Philippines happened on a Sunday morning, held at Mazaba or Limasawa, attended by all the local islanders, the Spanish voyagers, the Turajas, and of course, Magellan himself. On March 25, 1521, to Balanghay or Balangan. Balangay. It is a long boat full of people from Mazaba. Magellan and the king of Balangay or Balanghay exchanged gifts and expressed their desire to become brothers. For more context, may we call on Miss Bea Cagitla.
Hi everyone, I'm Franz Bea A. Cagitla. April 1, 1521, the first Catholic Mass in the Philippines was held in Limasawa. It was attended by Ferdinand Magellan, Raja Colombo, Raja Suave, Spanish voyagers, and the local islanders. April 8, 1521, Magellan and his men entered the port of Cebu. Initially, Magellan and his men encountered some struggle when first entering the port of Cebu. The king of Cebu wanted Magellan and his men to pay tribute to them, but Magellan refused and told the translator that they are working for the king of Spain, and the king of Cebu threatened with war. This is the sum picture that we are provided for you. This is the Landrone Islands, presently known as the Marianas Islands. In April 15, 1521, a mass was held with Raja Colombo, and his people attended the ceremony. 82 souls were baptized. Pigafetta showed the queen an image of Our Lady, a very beautiful wooden child Jesus, and a cross. She asked for the little child Jesus to keep in place of her idols, and his image of child Jesus is also known as the Santo Niño, found in Cebu. This is the image of Santo Niño de Jesus given to the wife of Raja Humabon. April 27, 1521, according to Sula, the chief of Matan, si Lapu-Lapu refused to obey the King of Spain. Si Lapu-Lapu did not want to pay Magellan and his men the gold that they were promised. Magellan was not pleased since they went to Matan to garner food for their expedition.
I'm Kathleen de la Cruz and I'm going to discuss the continuation of the analysis, the first voyage around the world. Sulla requested the captain to send him only one boatload of men to fight against the ship. The captain general decided to go thither with 3 boatloads. The captain did not wish to find them, but sent a message to the natives to the effect that if they would obey the King of Spain, recognize Christian King as their sovereign, and pay us our tribute, he would be their friend. But if they that wish otherwise, they should wait for our lances wounded. April 28, 1521, originally April 27. At midnight, 60 of Magellan men sent out armed with corslets and helmets, Christian King, Prince, and some of chief men, 20 or 30 balanghays. The local islanders had lances of bamboo and sticks hardened with fire. They shot the captain through the right leg with a poisoned arrow, knocked his helmet off his head twice. An Indian hurled a bamboo spear in the captain's face, but the latter immediately killed him with his lance, which he left in the Indian's body.
I'm Maria Andrea G. Bautista, contribution of the document in understanding the grand narrative in Philippine history. Elaborate the lifestyle back then. It described what the local Islander wore, what they ate, how they communicated, and how they lived. Pigafetta's journal is the only known document about Lapu-Lapu's life, considered the best source today of the custom and usage of the Filipinos in early 16th century. Due to the daily notes Pigafetta took and details about the expedition that he wrote about, that contains the first vocabulary of Visayan words ever penned by a European, music of the Visayan inhabitant as described by Pigafetta, vocabulary of Visayan word list by Pigafetta.
My name is Ivy Kimberly Guevara, your reporter. Next to our report is the relevance of the document. August 10, 1519 is the starting point of the first expedition around the world of Ferdinand Magellan. Magellan discovered the Pacific Ocean. Magellan proved that there was a way to the east by sailing west. In September 1519, Magellan's fleet sailed from Spain and across the Atlantic Ocean, which was known simply as the Ocean Sea. There the ships sailed southward, hugging the coast in search of the fabled strait that would allow passage through South America. On October 21, 1520, Magellan finally entered the strait that he had been seeking and that came to bear his name. The voyage through the Strait of Magellan was precarious and cold, and many sailors continued to mistrust their leader and grumbled about the dangers of the journey ahead. After more than a month spent traversing the strait, Magellan's remaining armada emerged in November 1520 to behold a vast ocean before them. They were the first known Europeans to see the Great Ocean, which Magellan named Mar Pacifico, or the Pacific Ocean, for its appearance of peacefulness, a stark contrast to the dangerous water of the strait from which he had just emerged. In fact, extremely rough waters are not uncommon into the Pacific Ocean, where tsunamis, typhoon, and hurricanes have done serious damage to the Pacific Islands and Pacific Rim nations throughout the history. The book served as an evidence that the world is round and not flat. Seeking riches and personal glory, Magellan's daring and ambitious voyage around the world provided the Europeans with far more than just spices. Although the trip westward from Europe to the east via the Strait of Magellan have been discovered and mapped, the journey was too long and dangerous to become a practical route to the Spice Island. Nevertheless, European geographic knowledge was expanded immeasurably by Magellan's expedition. He found not only a massive ocean, hitherto unknown to Europeans, but he also discovered that the Earth was much larger than previously thought. Finally, although it was no longer believed that the Earth was flat at this stage in history, Magellan's circumnavigation of the globe empirically discredited the medieval history conclusively. This book aids the researchers and students of today in understanding the context of Magellan's expedition and how the whole Europe-Philippines conflict commenced. Growing up, we've understood the issue just simply as the start of the Spanish era and Magellan being the Philippines villain without taking into debate the context and the different reasons of the expedition. Though Magellan is often credited with the first circumnavigation of the globe, he did it on technicality. He first made the trip from Europe to the Spice Island eastward via the Indian Ocean and then later made his famous westward voyage that brought him to the Philippines. To continue the report about the relevance of the document, here is our next reporter, Mary Josh Elasha.
The expedition that was held from 1519 to 1522 opened many doors for Spain together with many other different countries around the world due to the discoveries from this expedition. It led the world to be a more globalized society because of how the other countries were revealed to the European countries. Businesses rose because of the discoveries that made up the different products. Collaborations were also made which benefited the different sides. It opened many doors for the Philippines. It helped us in knowing how the early Filipinos lived by the account of a primary source who witnessed it firsthand. It also helps us understand how the Filipino of the past lived and how they coped when Magellan and his men came to the Philippines. We discovered what religion Filipinos used to have before they became Christians. We also found out how the first Filipinos fought and delayed the Spanish occupation by about 40 years. Pigafetta's journal is also a vital piece not only to the Philippine history but also the world's history. He narrated events that transpired in a way that gives the readers of his journal a clear picture of what was it like to be a part of the first voyage around the world. That is it. We hope that our lecture created a better understanding about Pigafetta's journal. Thank you and good day.